Welcome to the first and possibly only last to first challenge. I say possibly only because my alternate account is already up to almost an A class. So, while that can get some good battles with the leaders, I don't know if I can go quite from last to battling with the leaders. But this was one of the very first races I did with my alternate account. And back then, too, this was even before I sold the head alternate account on YouTube. So I have an inconspicuous basic paint job as the default livery on the Viper for this. And well, no one really knew it was me, and a lot of people probably in a race still doesn't even know it's me, so well, let's see what happens with this, folks. With this particular thing, I'll race sort of kind of like I do, just dirty if someone else races dirty. But also, if someone's blatantly blocking and they're obviously slower, I'm not going to hesitate too much to get by them, I'll just say that. But anyway, as y'all saw, I was starting 19th out of 19 here. This is a daily race C at Kyoto. Both tracks combined. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce both tracks. I guarantee I'd mess them both up. But anyway, I'm already in 18th. And it's already getting stupid. Nice. I don't have it on the direct capture because penalties didn't end up having that big of a deal overall because everyone ended up kind of having some. But yeah, that was a penalty and that was a penalty and neither were my fault. So yeah, this is starting out swimmingly. Again, this is a pretty low class. I think I'm like D class driver rating and just then got to there, and S class. Or no, I don't even think it was S class. Yeah, I think it was like A class sportsman separating or something. I can't remember. It was one of the very first races I did on this account, so that was many months ago now. But nonetheless, that means either way, there's going to be tons of people getting tons of penalties, and there's nothing that I can do about it. But what I have done so far is actually get almost in the top 10. That's 11th there, and I can see 10th and even 9th, so even though I think at this point I literally have like 7 seconds penalty through no fault of my own, which is the usual. I'll admit that. That's like my usual race. But it's still annoying nonetheless. I have been able to gain 7 positions so far, 19th to 12th. And now I'm in 11th, and there we have it, folks. And that was some minor contact there, and this is the old penalty system, so that was probably still a 2-second penalty. And that's like a 10-second penalty, probably somehow still to me as well. So at this point, I probably literally have like 24 seconds of penalties. But I am in the top 10, so I've already almost passed half the pack so far. Granted, as y'all know, in this type of racing, or any type of racing, passing the back of the pack, it doesn't necessarily mean you're in the top half, theoretically, in terms of how quick you would get the top of everyone. Because, yeah, while I have passed over half the drivers in the field, the most skilled drivers, in theory, are ahead, or at least in qualifying times they are. As I say that, I'm still moving up pretty steadily. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting to do this good this quick, all things considered. I say all things considered because penalty times I'm probably like 6th. Granted, listen to what I said, penalty times are probably like 6th right now with 24 seconds of penalties. I don't even think that's an over-exaggeration. I was racing clean through that, so I think the people were racing pretty blatantly dirty in theory to get more penalties, but we'll see. Actually, I guess I didn't, so it has penalties, so we won't technically leave it. There will be points throughout the race where people are deleting penalties, and I delete penalties if I remember correctly. I ain't saying yet if I complete the challenge, aka win the race, but I will say there's a lot of penalty deletions through this race. And there's a lot of passing too. I've already done a whole heck of a heap of the passing, but I assume there will still be more. I see no reason why not, really, but for now, let's put it in a pretty cinematic view, because even though I wanted to make sure I was as stealthily as possible when doing this, so I didn't have a Mopar livery on this, it's still Viper, so it still looks pretty nonetheless. The default livery is still cool. And I guess now, pretty quickly, I'll go ahead and put it back into this view, because I'm passing people again. Well, that was quick. There wasn't too much of a lull of passing people. Now, there may be. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I'll put it back into this view again, and we'll find out. This race is relatively long. It's not that many laps, but this track is one of the bigger ones in the game. And I'm okay, not great at this track. I'm better at the smallest track and like second to the second biggest track, meaning like each of the tracks separate. This combined, though, is definitely my worst of them, but I'm alright here. It's far from my worst track. And, I mean, far from my worst track, but technically I'm an A-plus driver. It means that I should be able to, in theory, win this race. But in reality, because the penalty system and SR rating does it in a way where if your SR goes down low to the point your DR resets, I have a hunch some of the people way up there are actually probably near A-class drivers who just got unlucky with the sportsmanship rating. And still, even saying that, I mean, here's the field, and then here's me. Mentif! Can't complain. In the top 5 with a whole heck of a heap of racing left. There's the field in general on camera there. There was about 7 cars or so on camera for that shot. So that's how spread it out it is. And as y'all can see here, though, I'm deleting penalties because I have the space to here. Sort of. Kind of. That wasn't my fault. I bet I still got a penalty for it, but it definitely was not my fault. I got ran into. That's one of the sad things of Gran Turismo Sport as well, is when you try to delete a penalty, more times than not, unless you delete it at the very end of the race, which means that you have to not accumulate enough penalties or it starts going up by the end of the race, so it's pretty caught picking hard racing against this class of drivers. You usually get a penalty when you try to delete a penalty, because then you're going slower, and that just causes a pile-up, so, yeah. Again, the penalty system ain't as bad as it was, but that's still the fact of the matter that did happen in the past, and therefore some drivers got driver rating resets with that in the past, which still has an effect on the present, and it always will, even in the future too. Past resets is still damaging even in the future, just because that's that much loss that you'll never get back, no matter how hard you try. Even if you get back to where you weren't, even above, still in theory you'd be higher than that if it didn't reset you to begin with, so there's that aspect of it. But for now, oddly enough, I'm actually kind of still at a lull. Even with that deleting a penalty, I still probably ended up getting more penalty than I deleted because that one person tapped me. As y'all can see, I'm still deleting the penalty. I don't even think when I said 24 seconds, that was an over-exaggeration. I think if I remember correctly, I was at 24 seconds at some point through the race. I can't really remember where, but I mean, y'all can make your own assumptions of how clean I've driven so far. I'm gonna admit it wasn't the cleanest in the world because some other people tried to wreck me, but that's how I've always raced as well. And still, on my main account, I have an S-Class sportsmanship rating, and even eventually on the alternate account, I do as well. Not here yet. I don't even think I was all that close to getting it here yet. It was probably like 2 or 3 weeks until I did, but saying that, I didn't even touch that driver. It still got around, so that works out pretty good for me. It kind of sucks that the Viper was the one that went off track there, but whatever. Now it looks like I'm about in a battle for a podium spot, so that's cool. Especially this early in the race. Again, y'all can be your own judges of like how well that actually is in terms of overall pace of will I be able to catch in time. It's about half a lap to halfway through the race. And I'm in 4th. So actually kind of looking like 3rd was going to go off there, but it caught it. No harm, no foul there. I don't know if that would have been a penalty or not for that driver, but it doesn't affect me, so whatever. I don't care all that much. In the grand scheme of things, I did gain a little bit of time, though, so that's good. But I'm not quite thinking about passing that driver. Jiminy Cricket, that driver goes wide. Guess they know what they're doing. They made it work so far and haven't really gone off, but that's a kind of scary line to take. That's definitely pushing it to the limit, and it ain't necessarily faster either. But unless I get by clean there, so whatever. I don't even think we made any contact there, so that was cool. That driver actually sort of kind of just let me by, too. He gave me room and all that, so even taking sort of extreme lines is fine as long as you race clean when someone ends up ultimately catching you who takes a different line, so can't fault that driver. It was a good driving by both of us, and we only got around. So now I'm in the podium with about half the race to go. Here's where second is, and first and second are relatively close. They could end up in a battle, but by the time it's all said and done. Second is in the Lamborghini, and first is in the Bugatti. No, I think first was about to be in the Lamborghini. No? Jiminy Cricket. More extreme lines again. It was kind of looking like that, but wasn't really going to work out. They were kind of relatively close before, and they're still kind of relatively close now. I don't even think second gained much from that, so there's some odd lines being taken for this race, but maybe, just maybe, that will help me in the long run. But for now, I think it's going to be a bit of a long run before it gets top two, and it looks like the top two have caught each other, so that will help me. For now, let's hold this battle, because ultimately, if they keep battling, I think there's a pretty good chance I will be involved in that battle at some point. And remember how I was saying too before that it was eventually going to be in the Lamborghini in first. Well, it's the Lamborghini in first. That's happened off camera, apparently, but unless the Bugatti was just leading penalties or something and ultimately get around later on speed. But actually, with this being race C, though, there's pit stops. I sort of forgot about that. So let's see who comes out best from pit stops or who doesn't pit or whatever. Let's see how this works out. It's looking like all the main people did pit. So let's see how well we all pull out ultimately to see how the positions are afterwards. It's looking like it's pretty equal, all things considered, but I might have actually lost a little bit of time. Well, I don't know. I think I guess I'm about equal. I don't think I lost any. And then two came out pretty much 100% equal. They were nearly side by side still. Are still. I lost a little bit of time there. I can say more extreme lines didn't really lose too much time. I think that was a little bit of time, which actually puts me nearer to second, and second is the first now. And it's lap 5 of 7, so I'm catching up, ain't I? I was kind of hoping for my sakes that they were going to pit a lap earlier, just because the Viper ain't the best with fuel and tires. But I hung in there, and now it's ultimately going to pay off, because I don't have as bad a tire wear, but no one else will either, except for maybe that that car. More extreme lines, but I ain't gonna complain. I got by clean again. At this point, I don't have too much penalty left. I think I still have some, but not much. And again, it's possible to tell how much the Bugatti has. This could be interesting. Even though maybe it would make a pass, I don't really think that Bugatti had a car truly around it in terms of giving it a penalty very much throughout the race. Lamborghini caught it throughout time, but I think the Bugatti's been leading the vast majority of the race, so therefore it shouldn't have gotten much in the way of a penalty. So even if I get in the lead, it doesn't necessarily mean I've won yet. So this could be iffy. And the last few drivers actually made a mistake on their own. This driver was the leader, so in theory, if there's one driver that I'm going to have to pass with pure speed, it's going to be the leader. That just makes logical sense. So I'll attempt to use logic when passing this driver and do it in a good way and all that. But again, if they're obviously blocking, we'll see what way I end up deciding to do it with. That's not too much blocking yet, but I'll see how good this driver takes this turn. Not bad. And actually, Joe and Creed did that turn pretty good. I've been gaining a little bit of time on me. That's a little bit surprising. I figured the Viper would be better than Bugatti going into the turn. But also I'm racing relatively cautious for now, because I still have a decent amount of time too, and I still have penalties, so not too big of a rush for now. Third, I don't think is realistically going to catch up with us two battling, given that I was able to pass third already, so it's not like I've been in second the whole race, and this is going to make third catch up. It's that I had the speed to get to second from the very back, so I think I have the pace to be able to avoid third catching up by us two battle no matter what happens. In terms of the battle itself, penalties, man, it could be the great equalizer, and we're still having me lose. We'll see though. First things first, I need to get by. The Bugatti's done a perfectly fine job of being able to hold its own once I've caught up. Catching and passing are different things, and now I'm on the wrong end of it. Well, I don't know, that might have been a little bit iffy, but I let off the throttle a little bit to try to, equal it out. That Bugatti did brake a little bit early into that turn, but also it wasn't really blocking as much as just brake a bit early. So I tried to sort of equal it out there. I would say that Bugatti was going to get past anyway if it wasn't on my line, so I let off the throttle a little bit to make it to where at that point we were pretty bumper to bumper. But also I got a penalty from that, but I think the Bugatti did as well, so I still have to delete the penalties, so it still could be anybody's race, and we'll see what happens. I feel decently confident at this point because the Bugatti did have a penalty even before that happened, but again, I don't know how much penalty. At this point, I'm pretty sure I still have like 8 seconds or something like that, if I remember correctly. So I just need to have speed here, I just need to be able to run away. And, I mean, y'all can take it as you may again if we have a clean out race wrap, but I would say I did a decent job. Knowing how the penalty system is, I still probably lost sportsmanship rating, but I don't think it was enough to get reset or anything. At this point, I only have a D driver rating anyway, so there wouldn't be much of any of a reset no matter how far the sportsmanship rating goes down, so whatever. I did what I thought I needed to do in a way that didn't really hurt anyone, all things considered. So, I mean, yeah, it's looking like the Bugatti definitely has at least second in the bag, but I still have to race pretty fast to be able to have time to delete the penalties and not get caught at the end. Though I think the Bugatti still needs to delete its penalties as well. But as you all saw there, the Bugatti just ran its best lap of the entire... Actually, no, it didn't. That just went up blue, and it's not sun blue there. That was weird. But I did just run my best lap to the point of it's even purple, so... It's looking like I got the pace to definitely be able to win. Flat out. But again, they're still deleting the penalties, and I have to decide when to do it. Best case scenario is at the very end, but... Well, I have time to delete all of it on the last straight, is the question. As of now, I got a lead, but it's not as big of a lead as my penalties are. You can delete penalties quicker than they're, like, given or whatever. Which makes sense, because if you deleted the penalty and it took as much time as the penalty was to delete the penalty, there would be no point in deleting it, because it would just equal out the same thing. But still, it's not guaranteed yet, and that's a little bit scary. So at this point, I'm racing as hard as I can, even though I don't know how big of a gap I truly really need. Because I'm not really all that used to deleting penalties on this course, just because I don't race here all that much, so I don't know when I need to start deleting penalties. I don't want to start too early because I'll be caught. I don't want to start too late, so I get it all done in time, and it's more stressful than it looks with driving right now. As y'all can see too, I'm pushing it pretty much to the limit as well. My tires ain't the best. My fuel's about empty, but I'm still good all in all. The Bugatti has, honestly, I think a little bit worse tire wear than me. Hallelujah, the Viper doesn't have the worst tire wear. Shouldn't. It's relatively light for the class, and it's rear-wheel drive, but anyway, that doesn't matter right now. What matters is, can I delete the penalty in a way that I don't get caught? That Bugatti's still kind of in it. I mean, there's less than a straightaway in between us, and that's a relatively short straight. To that sign, that's like 1, 2, 3, 4-ish seconds. And I need to delete multiple seconds of penalties. I can't remember exactly how much. So let's see how this goes, folks. Yeah, there wasn't too much leading there. I thought it was actually going to be a little bit more, but maybe I just had less penalty by the end there than the time worth or whatever. But nonetheless, I did the first challenge. It was sort of anticlimactic at the end. And I know it wasn't the cleanest in the world either, but I have no idea who was racing with this race, like, at all. Like I said, relatively being in a low B class, high A class with my alternate account now. But a few of the drivers I know, this was absolutely none whatsoever. So I wasn't really worried the Bugatti was going to break early. I wasn't really aware of, like, early stuff that gave me penalties. People just bouncing all around and all that. All things considered, though, the penalty system screwed me over some. It screwed some other drivers over some. But ultimately, I was able to drive past all that and win. So I think this is a pretty well-deserving win. It probably wasn't perfect by any means, but I won by a pretty convincing manner, so I think it's fair to say I succeeded in the last of first challenge. I, I mean, that's, I guess, roughly the margin at the end there. So, that's not a bad margin considering that I did delete some penalty by the line and style too of it. So yeah, that's a win. Last first challenge was a success in the Viper. And I don't know if there'll be more of this in the future, so just enjoy this one for now. Because honestly, I'm relatively proud of this. It's hard to say exactly how proud I am, just because again, I don't really know the drivers or their situation and all that. But I think, nonetheless, no matter how you try to word it, I think even how I word it too, and I'm relatively cynical of myself. I'm a competitive and always try to improve. I'd even say it's probably yeehaw. So, yeah, yeehaw. Not bad. A win is a win, all things considered, so yeehaw. Last the first challenge, getting the win in the Viper. Yeehaw.